Okay, we're going to start just now. Hi everyone, my name is Wing Yan and I'm the Vice Chair of BBYTA. Firstly, welcome to BBYTA Presents Conversations on Anti-Asian Hate. I'm now going to pass over to Shannon, who is going to go through some logistics with you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Stevenson. I'm Head of Operations here at BBYTA and I'm also one of your hosts for this evening. I'm going to start with some Zoom housekeeping. So this event will include live speakers. So to allow everyone to be able to be heard, please can I ask you to mute just to stop any unexpected noise. The mute function is just on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to use the chat function. This is near the bottom center of your screen. I would like to remind you that although this is a safe space, be aware that what you share in the chat can be saved by anyone. So just to remember only to share what you're comfortable with. You're responsible for your own GDPR. What you share is up to you. This event is being recorded to be shared on our website for future reference for yourselves and for those who are unable to make it tonight. Therefore, if you don't wish to be recorded, please turn your camera off now. If there are any problems during the event, please message my colleague Wing. I also want to really stress that this is an open space event where we'd really like for each other to be listened to and respected, regardless of your own personal bias. Right, so I just have a couple of things to disclose. Please note that all the data collected will be made into a report post-event. We will also send out a post-event survey. Please note that also this is also could also be formed as a part of a dissertation research project. If you do not consent to this, please can you let us know? Just send us a message through the chat function. I'm just going to pass you to my colleague Pui Kei to explain further.
Thank you, Shannon. So hi everyone, my name is Pui Kei and I'm a marketing officer at BBYTA. I'm also a master's student at the University of Edinburgh in social research. So I'm currently doing my research project on the relationship of COVID-19, racism and East and Southeast Asian people. This is a UK-wide phenomenon that I'm interested in. However, my project focus will be in Scotland. My research is going to be a mixed methods approach whereby I'm going to collect my data through online ethnography, participatory action research. So this includes interviews, questionnaires, some note-taking and informal interactions with community members such as yourselves. So I want to stress that this research is focused on your concerns and what you have to say about this topic. So from this session, I'm just looking to collect some narratives. Don't mind me, I'm just going to be any other participant, but if you do feel uncomfortable or you don't wish to be included in this dissertation project, by all means, send us a message or an email to let us know. So I'm just going to share you my email as well, so if you want to find out more about my project or want to get involved, feel free to get in touch. So thank you for your time and I'll pass you over back to Shannon.
Thank you, Pui Kei. So how this event is going to work is my colleagues are going to tell you more about what BBYTA is, why we're doing this event and why it's important. Then I'm going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves and we'll have a question and answer session. Afterwards, we hope to invite everyone to answer some questions. So I'll just pass back to my colleague Wing.
Well, we understand that this year has been full of Zoom and Microsoft Team calls, so we're going to keep this short and sweet and informative. The chair is actually also here at Wing C, so please give a wave and say hi. Perfect. Okay. But before we go on, first I have to say that we've got two very important guests as here today as well. We've got Colin Beattie MSP and we've also got Deidre Brock MP. They've both been a massive supporter of our organisation since we've started. So both of them are going to say a few words. So maybe Deidre wants to go first, if that's okay.
Deidre, you're on mute. Deidre, you're on mute.
Gosh, you'd think after all this time we wouldn't be doing that anymore, but there you go. Look, I'm not going to speak for very long because I'm keen to hear what everyone has to say, both people who have experienced this anti-Asian hate and also people like Chris who, you know, have got, I think, things to say about what might be done to help address it. But I wanted to commend Wing and everyone involved with BBYTA in organising this event so quickly as well. I mean, gosh, you brought it together incredibly quickly. And just to bringing our attention to this increase in anti-Asian hate crime in the UK by some 300% recently, I think I read, which is just a shocking situation and warrants, frankly, a lot more focus in our media, a lot more media attention as well. Although it is a UK-wide problem, I'm really pleased to see representatives of the scene in Scotland along tonight. We've got Maisie Chan, of course, who's currently based here in Scotland, and Chris Priestley from Show Racism, the Red Card, which is an organisation that's been doing a power of work on the issue of racism for many years. And I'm really interested to hear their thoughts and experiences here in Scotland as well. You know, my constituency of Edinburgh North and Leith is a really multicultural constituency. I'm really proud of that. I find any form of racism utterly abhorrent. So I'm keen to hear, to learn, and to see where I can be of assistance in helping to stop this, because there's no place for it in Scotland. You know, I see us as a very progressive, welcoming nation, and you know, that needs to be our raison d'etre, frankly, as politicians and as people who are fortunate enough to live here. So really looking forward to hearing what people have to say. Thanks very much again, Wing, and to everyone who's helped to organise tonight.
No, thank you, Deidre. And Colin?
Thank you. I mean, like Deirdre, I'm looking forward to hearing the opinions and views and the experiences of those who are presenting tonight. I hope to learn a great deal more about this. We have seen from newspaper reports and so on, an increase in racist activity or comments arising from COVID-19, which I think has particularly affected Chinese people due to the perception, of course, that it all started in China, it's all spread from China and so on. And I think that's been across the UK. So I think this is very important, and I congratulate BBYTA for putting this together and for highlighting this. I think it's a really important subject that we need to get out there. And depending on how the meeting goes and what the priorities might be, I would like to, on the back of this meeting, perhaps put a motion through the Scottish Parliament highlighting the fact that there is this problem, that it is affecting our citizens here, and that something needs to be done about it. I think it's really important. I think that you know, racism is a bit of a curse in society, and we need to find ways and means at any opportunity to highlight it, expose it, and get rid of it. So I'm looking forward to ideas coming forward from yourselves. And as I say, depending on how it goes, and if you agree, I'd be very happy to put a motion through Parliament which would highlight this issue and bring it to the attention of my fellow MSPs and others within the Parliament. So I look forward to hearing what you're going to say.
Absolutely, we would be delighted to put forward this as a motion, and I'm sure this is an issue that's close to all of our hearts, including the relevant speakers and also the attendees. But we're going to kick off finally. So, as a follow-up to our Chinese New Year event in 2021, we are leading the charge in organising debates and seminars to fight back and discuss the troubling increase in anti-Asian hate. BBYTA is committed to spearheading anti-racism events and other services to building bridges between East Asians and the UK communities during this time of turmoil and xenophobic violence, along with empowering young people to develop new skills across a wide range of projects and activities. And as Deidre said, the staggering 300% increase is unlikely to be the full number of reported crimes. BBYTA wants to bring together thought leaders and victims to a safe space to explore this issue. So I'm now going to pass on to Christian.
Thank you, Wing. But what is BBYTA? BBYTA, or the British Born Young Talent Association, is a new and dynamic youth-led organisation. Currently, our aim is to achieve charity status while focusing on the issues that concern us most. Originally founded by students with a love of Chinese culture, we found common ground in fighting for real social change. Pooling our skills in public relations, activism, and data analysis, we felt that we could make real change and build an organisation that would call for better cross-cultural education and the protection of all minorities that are facing discrimination. BBYTA isn't just an organisation that caters to British East Asians. We are also planning to discuss other issues all minorities may face, building bridges and creating alliances to broaden our message and to increase inclusivity. BBYTA sees keeping relations open and facilitating public debate on our chosen topics an extremely important objective. But why are we doing this event, and why is it important? We're inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, and BBYTA feels that more could be done to tackle attacks on all minorities of creeds and colours. With the concerning language on China, East Asian and Southeast Asian people in the UK are becoming increasingly stereotyped, misunderstood, and portrayed in a negative light. Evidence of this is already visible. During 2020, the polling group, Ipsos Mori, conducted a poll that found 14% of the British population avoids those that have an outright Chinese appearance. That's 1 in 7. A problem so widespread that even the bustling and established London Chinatown is seeing a 20 to 60% drop in trade. Additionally, BBYTA has found evidence of attacks all over Edinburgh, from Rose Street to the University of Edinburgh's main campus. So before we start, I'd like to warn everyone that we'll be discussing some quite troubling issues, which many of us have dealt with firsthand. So a trigger warning is in place. If one does feel affected by any of these subjects, please feel free to reach out for us.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, would like to take the opportunity right now before anyone leaves to have a quick photo. If I could ask for Wing's help to help count us down. Anyone who doesn't wish to have their photo taken, you are free to keep your camera off, but for anyone else, please join us and let's have a wee quick smile.
Yep, we're gonna probably have to do this a couple of times because we do have around 56 of us today. So okay. When we're all ready, 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay. Okay, another one. This time we're gonna go with BBYTA. Okay, 3, 2, 1, BBYTA. Bit of a mouthful, but we can try this one for the last one. Okay. 3, 2, 1, BBYTA. Okay, I trust that Tommy's got it. Please confirm. We may have to do this again. Have you got this, Tommy? A wave, a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay, cool. I'm going to pass back to Shannon.
Yes. Okay, now it's time to welcome our panelists. So firstly, Maisie.
Hello.
Hello, Maisie. Welcome. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Maisie Chan. I'm a children's author, born and bred in Birmingham, but now I live in Glasgow, in the West End of Glasgow. I've been here about 4 years, and my debut novel comes out tomorrow. And I've been writing for quite a long time, since 2006. And before that, I did a master's in American film and literature, and I studied sort of representation of Chinese men in Hollywood. So I kind of have read a lot about Orientalism and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about representation and how we're invisible in publishing and on the screen, but then we're also seen as kind of a kind of yellow peril as well. So it's kind of those two things I want to talk about a bit later.
Okay, great, thank you. Great to have you here. Next, can I welcome Dr. Peng Wang?
Yes.
Hello, please
Hello.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me for this great event. So I'm Peng Wang. I came to the UK in the end of 2014 when I joined the Southampton Business School as a lecturer in financial management. So I was a victim of a racist attack in late February this year. So I was just out jogging and I was attacked by a gang of 4 white men. They punched me on my face just because I'm Asian looking. So, but anyway, I will talk about more later. Thank you.
Thank you. We're really grateful to have you here. Next, I'd like to welcome the organisation Stop Asian Hate UK and their 2 representatives, Amy and Adi.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Adi. I'm one of the co-founders along with Amy, and there's a 3rd co-founder of Stop Asian Hate UK. It started off as a Facebook group. We just wanted to bring the communities together after the rise in hate crimes shocked us all really. And it evolved into a Stop Asian Hate UK organisation, which it is now. You can see, is our mission statement up there? No, let me read it out to you. So it's a Stop Asian Hate UK is a grassroots anti-racism movement devoted to advocating for equality. We act as a directory to ESEA organisations, resources and petitions within the UK, and our aim is to uplift and celebrate the ESEA community whilst also raising awareness of the rise in anti-Asian hate and demanding change. We're calling for demonstrations of unity to take place around the UK in mid-July, mobilising the Stop Asian Hate movement here in the UK as it has been in the US as well. We have a focus on mindfulness and mental health support, and we're looking to host a variety of workshops to empower the community. No unity without solidarity. I hand over to my colleague Amy.
Hey, I'm Amy. So yeah, as Adi said, I started the Stop Asian Hate Clubhouse room in March, which became a really cool platform for us to talk online. But we realized we wanted to take something offline, and I found Aidan, who's our other co-founder, who hosted a Stop Asian Hate UK Facebook group. And through that, we've kind of all worked together since then. Personally, I do quite a bit of activism with the Kill the Bill and protest planning, protest speaking, also advocating for Black Lives Matter and intersectionality as well.
Thank you both. Good to see you here. And finally, Chris from Show Racism the Red Card. Welcome.
Terrific. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can.
Martian. All right. Yeah, so my name is Chris. I'm from the organization Show Racism the Red Card, which, if you're not aware, kind of works against discrimination, injustice, and prejudice-based bullying, particularly in classrooms with young people. We also work with adults as well. I think that there's a really excellent panel here today. So my main aim is to listen, but I've got about 12 years of kind of active practicing experience. If there's any help I can provide or any insight or experience from grassroots organizing, from kind of teaching on the subject of anti-discrimination, I'm delighted to be here and able to offer any help that I can. So thanks a lot for organizing.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we have some pre-submitted questions for our panelists. Firstly, what do you think we can do to combat anti-Asian hate? Maisie, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I think there needs to be 2 things. So I think that I feel that there needs to be within the community a vocabulary that we all can use. And I think in the past, before COVID, we didn't even have a word or an acronym that described us, and people would use Oriental, which I hate that word, and I don't think people should use it, to describe people that look like us. And it is, in some ways, it's been challenging to see all the hate, but actually it's been quite heartwarming actually to see the grassroots coming together of community, because I've never ever seen that before. And I went to live in America in the 90s, and I did Asian American studies, and I learned a lot over there about not using the word Oriental because it's outdated. It's like calling yourself a Negro if you're Black. You know, it's so old fashioned, but we still use, people still use it today. It's still on Waitroses food, and it just means it others you, and it makes you a perpetual foreigner. And I think that perpetual foreigner stereotype actually is really unhelpful, because people in British society don't think we belong here, that even though I've got this accent from Birmingham, people look at me like, can she speak English? You know, they don't, until I speak, they don't feel like I belong here. So I think having a working vocabulary that we can use within the community is really useful. And then outside of the community, there's literally my book, Danny Chung Does Not Do Maths, has the first British Chinese boy on the cover. It's 2021. Why is this happening, that this is the first British Chinese boy on the cover, when we make up so much of, you know, the population? And so we're not seen, we're invisible. But then I remember a few years ago, my son was having an asthma attack and we were in an ambulance, and this paramedic said, oh, there's so many of you Chinese around now, you've kind of taken over the world. And I realized that there was still this kind of idea that there's a yellow peril, that Chinese students are coming and taking the jobs. And it was just like really odd that she would say that to me. So I feel like there needs to be more representation of East Asians, Southeast Asians in the media, in books, all types of books, children's books, especially children's books actually, because they're the next generation. They're the ones that are going to grow up. And, you know, we're dealing with Brexit as well. This COVID racism comes on the back of that. We've had 4 years, or how many years, 6 years now, of Brexit attitudes. And I actually moved to Scotland because I didn't feel that Birmingham, which was my home, which voted for Brexit, was a welcoming place anymore for immigrants or people of colour, and even some friends voted for it. So there was already this kind of feeling of the far right being emboldened, and Scotland felt like the place, you know, they voted to remain, and they are very liberal up here, to be honest, and very friendly, and I feel welcome. But I think we need to see more screenwriters, we need to be on TV, we need to have journalists writing about us. And I think, especially for children, that if they don't see someone of another culture or another colour on TV, in picture books, at school, then they're going to feel that they're alien and that they're not like them. And a few weeks ago, my daughter, who looks Chinese, she's half Chinese, but she looks Chinese, this boy was holding the door open for her, this white boy, and he told her, get out Oriental. And because I've had this conversation with her about Orientalism and that the word's old-fashioned, she kind of brushed it off. But for me, it reiterated that people still don't feel like we belong here. So I feel like having like a vocabulary that we have, like British East Asian and Southeast Asian, I think is a great acronym, and I love that it's being used more, easier as well. And also just support, if people can support writers like me and call out racist characters in books, on TV, and just support creative people and people that are creating work. So that's my main thing that I think we should do. Because I think if you just say to someone, stop being racist, that person's going to be racist. They're not going to stop. I think we need to work with children and the next generation and young people and foster like community. You know, they've closed loads of youth centres and stuff like that. So actually young people don't mix with each other. In Birmingham, I used to have a very multicultural friendship. So I think the youth are in crisis as well at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of my answer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that, yeah, I would agree with it, quite a lot of what you said. And I'm just aware, Maisie, I hope the other panelists don't mind that you are a bit limited on time today. So I want to ask, does anyone have any questions for Maisie at the moment? It's okay if not, you can always be in touch with us later and we can pass it on. And if no one has anything, Maisie, do you have anything else you would like to say before you go?
I think the work that Stop Asian Hate is doing is brilliant, and all the, you know, there's so many groups now that are just working together and there's conversation, and I think a lot of it's driven by young people, especially young women, and that's really heartwarming. And just keep going, and yeah, that's it really.
Okay, well, we're so thankful for you to have joined us today. Yes, thank you so much.
Maisie, I just want to say congratulations on your book. I'm the chair, Wingsy, but thank you very much for your time. I know you're very limited, and I really, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if we do have any follow-up events, I'd love to invite you back.
Sure, yes, it's great. And you're all doing really good work. Like I'm much older than you guys, but I'm just like, I'm really kind of touched by what you're all doing, because I'm not an activist. I don't organize protests. I write books, and that's the way I have dealt with the problem, because I saw this problem 20 years ago that we aren't anywhere. But I think the future's bright with you guys doing this work. So thank you.
We're all in it together. Thank you, Maisie.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Peng Wang, I'd like to put this question to you. What do you think we can do to combat Asian hate?
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me for this great event. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so first of all, I believe racism is everywhere. So before I came to the UK, I studied in Finland for 6 years. I still remember there was one time, when my girlfriend, who is now my wife, we went to a small shop. So the woman who didn't say anything to us, just receive our goods and just keep very yeah, she looked very sad, very upset because we are Chinese. And after we passed by and she she showed her smile again to the next customer. So racism is everywhere. As a Chinese saying, it says that 至少门前雪. So it's like everyone only wipes out everyone's snow on their door. Out their door. So it's actually if we still use the old Chinese culture to live in Western countries, it's not going to work, right? So why we need to fight? Because if we want, let's say, equal rights, if we want to decrease the racism, so we have to fight. So one thing I want to mention, so in Southampton, I know most of you, maybe you are from Scotland. In Southampton, so last year in March, there was already a racist attack that happened in the city center. There were several teenagers who follow some students from the University of Southampton, follow them in the city center and attack them. So after 1 year, so I was out jogging and got attacked by the racist people. So this because I don't think that the previous event had draw much attention from the public. So maybe one possible reason is maybe they are students, they don't have channels to voice. But here, I'm a lecturer of the university, and also the university general, is very cultural diversified. So people hate this, I believe. So that's motivated me to stand out, to speak out, to fight for the racism. Yeah, so basically that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to ask the same question towards Amy and Adi from Stop Asian Hate.
Hey, I've got a couple of things to add to this one as well. I just wanted to shout out Alan, Erica, Josephine and Ginny from Dear Asian Youth London, who worked in conjunction with me to write an article about Stop Asian Hate, sharing recipes and information about stereotyping, problems with the rise in anti-Asian hate crime and how we can combat it. And I'll be taking some of the words from this tonight as well. But for this particular question, with what do we think that we can do to combat anti-Asian hate? I think the whole anti-racism movement as a whole needs to be looked at when we think about anti-Asian hate, because it all interlinks and it's all due to one problem, which is racism, which isn't just towards one race. It's due to white supremacy at the end of the day. And if we start to educate ourselves on these issues, and that allows us to not only understand how the struggle is affecting other people, but also how we can empower others as well. Like Maisie said, I think books are really amazing to learn by if you have the capacity to read books at the moment. But some really good ones are Overcoming Everyday Racism by Susan Cousins, If They Came First by Fatima Asghar. Of course, you might have heard of the Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Ido Lodge, which was a very much talked about one last year. Also, Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong, and This Time Will Be Different by Misa Suguera as well. So books and kind of looking at the whole circle of racism, specifically, and how we can work with other communities that are also experiencing oppression to be able to collectively counteract racism. I'll hand over.
Yeah, in addition to that, representation, I think, being one of the most important things. I think for a long time, the Asian community has not called out racism. We've sort of laughed along with the jokes. There are accents done in front of us and we kind of brush it off. I think we can't really afford to do that anymore. We need to stand up for ourselves. We need to say, enough is enough. This isn't okay anymore. Yeah, I think that probably will go some way to combating racism as well.
That's very useful. Yes, definitely feeling knowledge is power, and definitely reading books, especially with Maisie just releasing her book as well. Thank you so much for putting the titles in the chat for everyone could have a look after. Chris, can I ask you the same question? What do you think we can do to combat anti-Asian hate?
Yeah, I think a lot of really great points have been made already. I would echo what Maisie said about this danger of othering, and I think the balanced, not really balanced, but sort of interrelated forces of at once kind of fit in versus go home, and this pressure that if you don't allow yourself to be almost co-opted, and this pressure to be the model minority as a individual from any minority community is really oppressive, and something that is really important to be a pillar of any move against racism is trying to acknowledge where these social pressures exist, and this presumption that any voice, whether it's a voice for worker rights, whether it's a voice for other forms of social justice, is in some way a lack of patriotism, a lack of commitment to the UK, and therefore symbolizes or signifies a reason to be resented or to be told to go home. And I think we also really ought to, if we're going to build on the point that was made by Amy about kind of combining our campaigns of anti-racism, place anti-Asian hate in the context of broader kind of deportation narratives. We've heard already about the kind of perils of Brexit, and I think Maisie really kind of spoke to that, and the power of the othering involved in that. But we could throw in the hostile environment there. We could throw in Windrush. We could throw in the forced repatriation of 2,000 Chinese merchant seamen in the 1940s. Whatever movement we're looking at.
Recording
coming in. No, okay, super. Yeah, so all these separate kind of pressures of xenophobia and othering and deportation right through society and government looking at those collectively, seeing them as a combined force of, we heard the term already, white supremacy, powers of racism, and looking to oppose those. And I'm conscious I've spoke a lot, but just finally, just to build on what Peng Wang said, I think the lack of channels and platforms for victims is a huge thing to recognize, in building groups that can platform and can really draw a spotlight to victims. Made me think of Marjorie, who some of you will have followed her case. She's an ESEA nurse here in Scotland, who was part of a vicious eviction campaign that involved death threats for her and her children, acid attack threats, and a lot of the local infrastructure, including the local council and police, were very much buying into really toxic, xenophobic ideas about her not having a tangible link to a community she'd lived in for a number of years, simply based on her heritage. And I think that individual was rendered very powerless by that experience, despite the work done by campaign groups to try and support that person. And I think the erasure and the powerless and voicelessness of so many marginalized communities is something that we can all work to try and challenge and build better structures to call out racism wherever we find it. So yeah, those would be some small suggestions, I suppose.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, so we've got so much interesting ideas and what we can do, and also, so just I've got a few more questions. If I could just ask the speakers to give us a short answer as possible, just for time, and also try and get as much as we can. So this next question is for Amy and Chris. As an activist, how do you manage to avoid becoming overly invested in your work to avoid burnout? Amy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm still learning how to do this. I think it's a really tricky problem. I don't think there's going to be a one-size-fits-all answer. I've been recently threatened with arrest for just doing my job as a photojournalist. And because I'm an independent freelance photojournalist and working for an independent magazine, it doesn't have as much standing against the police. So it can be very scary. And I think knowing your rights and knowing what resources are available for you is amazing. I would suggest, if anyone does want to get involved in in-person activism, seeking resource help from Green and Black Cross, I'll just type that in the chat, Green and Black Cross Legal, and they're on Instagram. And they have some amazing infographic information on there, just to kind of summarize, if you are going to a protest, what to do. In levels of how to self-care management, it does require a level of self-awareness, which many of us do struggle with due to our upbringing, and kind of, you know, saving face and brushing things under the carpet can be something we all experience, especially in Asian households. We did, however, host a lot of clubhouse events and clubhouse rooms whilst the restrictions were at their strictest. And we do have a whole list of notes about all of the different rooms we hosted. We had one about Asian unity and solidarity, enough is enough, interracial relationships, a specific talk about mental health, pursuing creativity, raising the next generation so they don't feel like they have to suppress their emotions, yellow fever, and dealing with subtle racism and microaggressions. So I'll also link that Google Drive note, which gives a breakdown of many different people's coping mechanisms and how-to-dos and lots of stuff like that. And I'll pass on to Chris.
Thanks, Amy. Chris?
Terrific. Yeah, I wouldn't have much more to add. I would kind of repeat a lot of the same advice. I think it's really important to have strategic oversight in any of the campaigns that you're involved in. Sometimes as individuals, we feel like we have self-care strategies, or we feel like we are balancing our well-being. But ultimately, if our movements are disordered, or our movements are overly ambitious, it can be completely out of our hands. So I would also point that out and say that often when we are at the coalface, there can be a real temptation to try and do it all straight away, but actually time spent in our groups, in our movements, just organizing what our priorities are, what our structures are, can be really, really time well spent. Also, I would say that kind of the solidarity that's already been touched upon of giving support and getting support can be a really effective mechanism of ensuring that burnout can be avoided, and also good ways to kind of protect yourself. And lastly, I think with all that advice related to your rights, I think that would be a big piece of advice for my time in activism. Plan for the worst, have that number written on your arm in Sharpie, that's your emergency call, have a bust card in your pocket, know what to do. Like, I don't expect that all of us are going to be involved in that kind of activism, but I think that there is a real deliberate strategy of overwhelming the voices of really important causes with the mundanity and mechanisms of kind of the police state and the intimidation of people who might, as we've heard, rightly be taking photographs in their role as a member of the press. And it's really essential that we know what rights we do have and make sure we assert them wherever we are. So that would be my only advice to add.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. And the next question I have is for Dr. Wang. What sustainable changes do we need to make in our Southeast Asian community for positive representation? Dr. Wang?
Yes. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes. What sustainable changes do we need to make in our East Asian community for positive representation?
Yeah, so first, I don't think that we can make a substantial change in a short time. It should be, a long time. But for example, like today's event, like your organization, so it's a good sign. So in Southampton, for example, here we have a Chinese association in Southampton, which interacts with the police station, with the city council frequently. So, but anyway, so just by one sentence is united, we are stronger. So one just bear this in mind. So we must unite, and we also we must make other people aware about this potential racism. Yeah, basically that's my idea is for this. So we are not able to make substantial change in the short term, but if we continue to do this, if we continue to voice, so this could help.
Thank you. So I'm aware that I have a couple of questions from our audience. Can I ask Min Rose to come forward? I'm aware that she has a question. Hello.
Oh, hello. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm from University of Nottingham. Question, I think, about the media's role. Either by laziness or on purpose. I think this unnecessary association of Asian images when reporting COVID-related cases, even when sometimes not relevant, has been quite peripheral in the last few months. So there has been data to support that research. So I just wonder, how can we hold the media more accountable in terms of how we report, Asian, but also other matters, when they affiliate messages and images in their reporting? Is there something that relatively, what evidence do we need to call for legislation change to hold them more into account? So it's probably a question more for the politicians, for some advice.
Does Deidre or Colin do? Yep, Deidre.
Yep. Okay. Well, the power to regulate media broadly rests with Westminster. It's reserved. Broadcasting is reserved, for example. The regulatory bodies are IPSO for print media, and then Ofcom for broadcast media. And I would certainly urge everyone who experiences that or sees something that they feel very uncomfortable about to complain to those two bodies. They're not, IPSO in particular, I think has a lot of problems in terms of enforcement. I would like to see more enforcement involved with IPSO, but that's been the subject of the Leveson inquiry, and that's been a long-running saga for years now about trying to get the media to take more responsibility for its actions. But certainly, I think, you know, I would urge everyone who sees things that they are unhappy with or that they feel that they want to protest about to write to those two bodies, because that all helps raise awareness of the issue as well. And I think too, write to your politicians, because I think politicians have a real part to play here. Of course they do. I mean, I think the way the Home Office has operated for a very long time and its treatment of immigrants, I think that fans the flames in the way it reacts to them. And I think a succession of Home Secretaries have contributed to that as well, and the way the attitudes they've taken and the methods that they use in order to you know, their treatment of people, immigration centres and so on, and that all sort of spreads out, if you like, and it creates an atmosphere where some people within the population see it as acceptable to inflict on any range of people who are different, the othering that Chris talks about, to inflict on them, you know, really poor treatment. And I think, you know, it's up to us as politicians. We have to set an example in the way that we as I say, in Scotland, we have a First Minister who has made it a point constantly to point out that Scotland is a welcoming country, and that we want people to come here, and we will offer you a good welcome, which is not to say that we are perfect. I mean, Chris mentioned an incident himself. You know, we are aware of that. I'm aware of 2 Asian students that were attacked from Edinburgh University not so long ago, which is a terrible thing. But, you know, it's up to all of us to fight against that. But as I say, if you see things in the media that you are unhappy with, certainly we can always try to bring legislation. But I would say that under the current UK government, you're not likely to see that happening. But we'll certainly keep raising it in Parliament. And, you know, as Colin referred to, I mean, that's something that I can take forward and bring up where I can in the Parliament itself. It's not unrealistic, Min, to call for legislative change, but it is something that has been called for and certainly done in Westminster, as I say, under the current government. I think you're not getting, it's not receiving much of a hearing. It's not to say we won't keep trying, but we will. But yeah, that's the way things are at the moment in terms, because immigration, of course, is reserved as well.
Thank you, Deidre. Yeah, obviously it's not something that's going to be changed overnight, but I think maybe going off of Dr. Wang, what he was saying about we need to just maybe if all of us keep having our voices heard and messaging our politicians, and maybe the more that we do that eventually over time, hopefully that will come through. Colin, do you have any response to that question?
Well, I suppose the most frustrating thing is that the Scottish Parliament doesn't have any powers in this. It's all reserved to Westminster. Getting the power of the press to distort and manipulate the media has been subject to a great deal of debate and sometimes condemnation, but the press always comes out of it retaining what they regard as their independence. Their independence doesn't necessarily mean an independent view. And quite frequently, as my political party finds out, they turn on elements in the community. And I think that's absolutely despicable, but it's a fact of life. The press here is generally fairly right-wing, and I don't think they reflect in general society, certainly not society in Scotland. Will we succeed in changing the press? Not in the short term. But what we can do is continually, all the time, highlight these issues, throw them back out there, make sure that they're not swept under the carpet. That is the responsibility of politicians, and that's something certainly that I'm prepared to do.
Thank you very much, Colin. I'm aware we have one other question from our audience. Could I invite Peg Santan to come forward and explain our question, please?
Hi, thank you for the organisation for organising this webinar, and it's actually, it's for work in which my organisation, COVID-19 Anti-Racism Group, does, and we formed last year in response to the uptick in violence and hate crimes to the Chinese community. My question is to MP Deidre Brock. So in London, with the Met Police, at the outset of the hate crimes enacting on this community, when they had noticed it had risen very sharply in March of 2020, they immediately came out to the community to start these community engagement meetings in order to support the East community widely pan London. They also have a Chinese and Southeast Asian staff association that was able to both assist and facilitate in translation, as well as reach out to victims. My question to Deidre Brock is, can this be replicated in Scotland? As we understand from our colleagues, they aren't as well supported as we are in London because they joined our meetings. And how can our MPs champion the outreach to ensure the safety of the East community across the country and not just in London? It shouldn't be the privilege of living in London to be able to have that safety net. And whether one agrees or disagrees with police being present for whatever reason, as I know that some people don't agree with it, but they are still the support system which society relies upon when there is such a thing as hate crime, when there is such a thing of crime that needs to be addressed. So how can we compel our MPs to champion a fairness in that sort of access to safety and support across the country? Because it shouldn't it shouldn't be selective.
No, indeed. I mean, policing is actually reserved to the Scottish Parliament, so perhaps Colin's best placed to answer that. But I'm not familiar with what you're speaking of, Pexan. So if you can send me some details regarding it, I'd be very interested to read it. Obviously, happy to raise it in the Westminster Parliament and use it as an example of the difference that can be made. I mean, again, I would say the Scottish government has been, I would say, pretty strong on addressing hate crime in Scotland and trying to legislate for it. And also we've got very strong community policing in Scotland, certainly where I'm based in Edinburgh. I mean, again, we're really proud of the community policing and the way we do reach out to different community groups, ethnic groups. So if you can send me the details, I'd appreciate that. I think Colin can perhaps talk about where it could go in terms of Scottish police forces, but I'm sure they'd be absolutely willing to listen.
Yeah, in the sense that the Scottish members have actually joined, police force have actually joined our London Forum, which is a forum set up by the Metropolitan Police that reaches out to the East community across London. So that's not just the Chinese community, it's all the other communities in which they reach out to, the Filipino community, the Thai community, and so forth and so forth. And
all right, okay.
That, that represents that East Asian.
Okay. And are you reaching out yourself as a group to other parts of the UK in order to try and set up sort of satellite groups in a way, or
So yes, well, as a result of that, we found out that other regions of England was not having these conversations with their local police or their policing authorities.
Right.
We've had members from Southampton join us, from Liverpool, from Scotland. But
Right.
what we would really like to see, what the community leaders in London like to see, is this replicated across the country. It should not be that, you know, it's great that they join these forums, but should there be a need for them to join? Really, the answer to that question is no. There should be a facilitation for them in their region relevant to their geographical area.
Yeah.
That is what will build bridges, but that also will and should show to the country that only by building a collaborative working relationship so that the communities feel supported and that they don't have to join a forum that's geographically very remote to them, will you see that actually policing and public services work? Because at the end of the day, policing is an extension of a public service that is taxed, that is paid for people's taxes, and therefore it should work for the people that live in the region in which they are. And the fact that we still have racist attacks across the country shows me, as a member of our organisation, our voluntary group, as well as I'm also very active in the Chinese community in London, that we are not reaching the right levels, whether that's in support, whether that's in prosecution, so that the public know that it's on the far right know that they will be held accountable for these crimes, and also that it's not making the change it needs to at the level it needs to prevent these attacks from going on. There's a multitude of issues here that I think needs to be addressed and actually needs to be addressed by MPs like yourself that have the platform and the ability to address it.
But as I say, happy to raise it down in Westminster, but policing and social services are devolved to the Scottish Parliament. So I'm sure Colin would be happy to come in.
Just before you come in, Colin, 1 second. I'm aware that Amy and Adi are about to leave. Thank you so much for being here. We're really grateful for your time. Yes.
Not a problem. I just wanted to share a little bit more before we left. We've got another meeting after this, but we want to discuss about next steps, about where we go from here and how we can tackle anti-Asian hate, for the next generation. Realistically, it has already been said that it's not going to be solved overnight, and racism definitely can't be. But we wanted to bring awareness to schooling systems, to education at a very young age about the existence of racism and implementing that into the curriculum. So last year with the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a massive petition that got over 300,000 votes and signatures to add in Black and Brown history into the English curriculum, along with a history of white colonialism. And we also stand by that and want to add in Asian history too. There's a couple of things that we would also suggest about schools, which is decentralizing Europe within languages and food classes, and instead empowering school kids to create dishes from all over the world rather than just in Europe. Hopefully then this will tackle things such as the stereotypes of Asian people eating dogs or cats or insects or crickets, and definitely this year many people have been heard, many Asians have heard bat soup used a lot, with the insinuation that we eat bat soup everywhere. So yeah, we wanted to kind of raise awareness to those next steps, and challenging the school system to think less about Europe and more about the globe as a whole. As many of these stereotypes are questioned, is it really that bad? It's not like in the US, it's very much violent and a lot of news from the US of people being killed. But in the UK, we are growing up with systemic racism in the form of microaggressions, which can be also described as death by 1,000 words, because it's slow and it destroys who you are and your identity at your very core. And from having that at a very young age, it then means that you have that insecurity and you carry it forever. So hopefully we can begin to help people with those kind of changes and finding their identity and confidence again. That's what we at Stop Asian Hate UK hope to do. But thank you so much to everyone for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Edie. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
My apologies, Colin. Would you like to have quickly respond to the question before? Sorry.
Yes, in part the sound wasn't very great on that one, but I think I picked up the gist of it. Certainly, yes, policing and social services, all that are devolved to Scotland. Therefore, we have the powers over that. Now, I meet the police and so on regularly, and I know they would welcome engagement from the Asian community. And if you have any proposals as regards that, regardless of whether it's in my particular constituency, I know I can facilitate that dialogue. So please take that away. And if you believe that you would like to set up that dialogue with the police in particular, then I'm happy to facilitate that. Okay.
Thank you for that, Colin. But I think what I was proposing to yourself and to Deidre Brock is that this is a responsibility of the MPs and of the police authorities in their regions to ensure that they replicate this, that what is happening in London, it could be that we have a wealth of diversity and knowledge here that you know, to tap into and to use, but this should be something that is standard across the country. Of course, community organizations should come together and support each other and facilitate, but the responsibility, I feel, at the end of the day, lies with the public authorities.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. It's just we're really running out of time, and we've got an interactive session that we're hoping to do with the participants. What I can do is I can send an email, and I understand the situation is very frustrating for you, but I can put you directly in touch with Deidre and Colin if that's okay with them both, if that's okay, and we can facilitate that conversation. Is that okay? Just bearing in mind we've obviously got quite a few participants, but I understand this is a very passionate issue for us all, and I'm really sorry to having to cut you off. So sorry about that. Claire, can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So again, apologies all. So we've got the interactive session, which to hopefully get everyone more involved. So just to go for a few housekeeping. So if we can have our laptops or mobile phones out, and go on the webpage swiftpolling.com and enter the code 28268 in order to participate. It's just a list of questions. Some of them are open-ended, some of them are multiple choice, and some are just word cloud. So if you feel comfortable, please do leave your name next to your submission. If you rather remain anonymous, that's okay. So we're going to go to the first question. So when everyone is ready, could you give me a wave, and then I'm able to, yep, is everyone ready? Perfect. Okay, so the first question is, in your opinion, what are the main driving forces behind racial abuse, discrimination, and/or microaggressions? So as we just said, if you just go on the webpage and just type the code, Claire will shortly share some of the results that are coming in. Some of you are really keen and have already submitted some of the results an hour ago, actually. So we're gonna read some of them out. We're gonna go through all of the questions first to go through the interactive element, and then we're gonna talk about them. Is that okay with all the speakers as well? Just give me a thumbs up and then I will know. Perfect. Claire, can you please share the results, please? Okay. Actually, it might work better if we do all the questions, then we can talk about it as well. Sorry, ignore that. My apologies. If we go back to the slide, if that's okay. Yep. Now we'll go through the, so if you can just close that, Claire, in 3, 2, 1. Okay. And now we're gonna have the second question live. Don't worry, I'll put that on. So if you guys also leave that page and refresh it, the new question should pop up. If it doesn't, please do pop in the chat. So, do you know of any organizations tackling racism towards East and Southeast Asian communities? And as a follow-up question, do you think anti-Asian hate existed before the pandemic? That will be the second question, but we'll do the first one first. Do you know of any organizations tackling racism towards East and Southeast Asian communities? Just to check, are we all able to get to the platform? If not, I can go through the instructions again. I know I am going through it relatively quickly just because of the time, because I love to have a bit more discussion towards the end. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, we seem to be doing okay. So I'm gonna say that again. So I'm gonna close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're now going to go to part 2 of the question, which I mentioned. So that is, let me just get that ready. Okay, it's activated now. If you refresh your web pages, the question is, do you think anti-Asian hate existed before the pandemic? I'm assuming by the utter lack of silence, we are all swift experts. So that's a good start. Nobody has any technical difficulty to it. If anyone do need more time, please do let me know. So I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to close it. So in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Claire, next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, there's another 3-part question. So I'm going to activate the new poll now. 3, 2, 1. If you can refresh just now. Why do you think it's important to get involved? Okay. And I'm going to close it to, I'm going to close it in 1, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Next question. We've got a few to get through, but I promise these we're going to discuss about them. Right. So, bear with me. Oh, may have missed this one instead. Okay. Claire, can we go to the next slide, please? I realized the second part isn't in. Okay, so this is another question. How can we better engage young people, for example, raising awareness and encouraging participation? So part of what we do at BBYTA, as Christian has mentioned earlier, we are a youth-led platform, and we do not have any political values, and we welcome everybody from all walks of life and all backgrounds. And I just want to make everyone aware of that. Of course, we are a very inclusive community, and we hope to stay that way. So love to hear your thoughts about how we can better engage young people and provide them opportunities as well. And coming from a background from the Scottish Youth Parliament, I've learned a lot about youth work, and it's something that I'm deeply passionate about. So hopefully you can share your wisdom with me as well. Oh, that's my fault. I didn't actually activate it yet. I'm going to activate it now. I'm sorry, apologies. It is now activated. Okay, so I will close again in 3, 2, 1. I do realize I'm doing this pretty quickly, so we can have one-word responses. I'm okay. I won't be offended. I promise. Okay, the next one, I'm going to activate it now. Again, just refresh and it will come in. Oh, I think I'm a bit too quick. So please unmute if I'm being too quick, because I'm not actually doing this myself. I'm looking at it live, so I'm not really sure. Apologies for this. That's okay. Let me just see. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Stop. If it doesn't let you, what you can do is on the chat function on Zoom, if you just put the number of the questions, it'll tell you each turn, and then you just type a reply. If that suits you better, we don't have to do Swift, just in case you don't get your answers, because I do realize I'm being fairly quick. I do apologize for that. Okay, so have I paused that one yet? Okay. We are now just to give you the number. We are now on question 5A. So if you just write brackets 5A, that would be okay. Can one of my team members provide an example for the next question? So I'm going to open this live. 3, 2, 1. Do you think there is enough coverage on this issue in the UK? Please explain if either yes or no. Oh gosh, no one's saying anything in the chat. I promise I won't judge your answers. They're all going towards a good cause. Oh, the person might change. Okay. Thank you, Pui Kei. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to close this. 3, 2, 1. 5B. What role do you think journalism has in portraying ESEA people in the UK? Sorry, just had a pause there. I have activated it just now. Going to check that we've all got our concentrating faces on, just to know that you guys are all listening to me. Okay, and I will close it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so number 7. So for this one, this might be our last question, Swift, but that's okay. So then after this question, please can you direct it on the chat, please? So this is 7A. What additional measures do you think need to be taken to tackle racism and discrimination in the UK? Okay, I can see that there's 2 more responses. Okay, so for the ones that aren't able to submit, please put it on the chat. This does happen sometimes, but just to let you know. So please do redirect your answers in the chat now if you haven't had a chance to submit. If not, I'm going to close this one. So now I'm going to encourage you all to engage on the chat, and please write in front of your answers for the following questions: 7B, 7C, and 7D. But I'll let you know. So 7B. In the recovery from COVID-19, do you think the UK education system will be able to deliver a non-biased view of colonial history that can better protect ESEA people and educate further generations? Please write your answers on the chat now. Zoom chat, I mean. I should probably stress, since it's no longer anonymous, if you don't feel comfortable in answering, that it's completely okay. Oh, we've got some answers coming in. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next question. Don't worry, we are almost there, I promise. I believe these are the final two. So 7C, if you're finishing 7B, that's okay too. 7C, do you think it's important to have allies? Oh, I'm glad that we're all saying yes. That's very good. We'd like that. Teamwork is a dream work. Or makes a dream work. Okay. Thank you for everyone's responses. Again, and now finally, 7D. How important are supporting role models in influencing, or supporting role models in influencing anti-racism in young people? Okay, so we've got a little bit of time left, so we're gonna show everyone's the results. Claire, are you able to share the various answers to everybody? And then I guess if anyone wants to make any comments, now is the time to raise your hand, and Shannon will help to facilitate that before Chris and Dr. Wang will say a few words for the closing of the event, if there's any sort of last minute thoughts. So we can see from the first question, driving forces, lack of knowledge, lack of education. That's also somewhat been echoed by the speakers. That's very reassuring to know. Are you able to scroll down? Nope. Okay, that's fine. We can move on to the next one. Does anyone want to add on that point on question 1? Nope. Okay. 2A. Any organizations tackling racism? Not particularly. Although someone that wrote CARG, Stop Asian Hate UK, perfect. ESEA Scotland, okay, group on Facebook, that's good. I'm glad we also have them attend our event as well. Okay, anyone want to add on these? I believe that Amy from Stop Asian Hate UK has listed a lot of resources, but we can also compile some sort of document to distribute. And as mentioned before, BBYTA is a central place if you need further support. You can reach out to us. Next question, please, for 2B. What do you think is important to get involved? Break the cycle of hate and injustice ever as a threat to... Oops, sorry, I'm not entirely sure I understand the end of that sentence, but if you want to change, can't just do nothing. Knowledge is power. Yep, again, I'm glad to hear that we are taking the learnings of our speakers today. Let's continue to the next question. Perfect. I think there's a 3B or 3A. 4. How can we better engage young people? Social media is a big one. What roles of Asians using activities, having more meetings, anti-racism education on the curriculum and social media reform. Again, all of these have been echoed by our speakers, especially Maisie and her books. And there's a new Marvel film with all Asians coming out, so that's something to. And I think the first ever film by all Asians was Crazy Rich Asians, so that's a good start as well. The next question, please. can you scroll up a bit so I can see? Oh, enough coverage. Not in mainstream media, BBC. Yes, properly understood in the media coverage. I think that was also reflected in the chat as well. And the changing, for example, changing the variants to alpha, beta. And then I think the newest one is delta instead of Indian variant, which is good. Okay, well, we've got a few more left. We'll just go through them, and then it will be enough of me finally. How can we digest the negative thoughts after watching and hearing from attacks? Oh, okay. We can cover that in the chat if we want to right now. We'll just move on to the next one. It must have been me when Claire, it's okay. If you can go back to the poll for me, please, and just go to the next question. More awareness, zero tolerance, education at all levels. Yep, again, all the things that we have echoed as well.
Okay, Leah, I think I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just because, as I'm aware that everyone's time is precious, and we're really thank you so much for everyone's patience. I do want to, just before we're about to end, and I want to ask our speakers, Dr. Wang and Chris, if you have anything else that you'd like to say, please share it with us now. Anyone like to go first, Chris or Dr. Wang?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, so I'm very grateful that you have this event. So let's just unite together, to show our solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Chris, do you have anything else to say?
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Yeah, keep up the good work. Thank you to everyone who took the time to be involved tonight. Lots of really thoughtful questions and ideas in the chat. And yeah, hopefully this is a first step of a very fruitful journey.
Thank you so much. Colin, do you have any words to add, to share?
Just that I'm really pleased that you ran this event. It's the first of its type I've attended. And I think that, we can take an awful lot from it. And I would like to give whatever support I can. I said at the beginning, it might be a good idea for us to highlight the issues that are facing the community by means of a motion to Parliament. I know a lot of my colleagues will be very interested to hear, and I'll be back in touch with BBYTA in order to agree the text of such a motion in Parliament. And it's about awareness. It's about making sure people are aware of this and keeping highlighting it and ensuring that it's not just swept under the carpet and ignored.
Thank you so much, Colin. And Deirdre, would you have any final words? Oh, you're on mute.
It's been a long day, sorry. Just thanks for asking me along. I appreciate it. It was good to hear from Wing, when she got in touch with me, and to have pulled this together so quickly. It's been very impressive. And I'm certainly going to be raising this where I can. If there's anything I can do to assist in helping to raise this issue down in Westminster, please let me know. There are things that we can do, like early day motions to raise the issue more generally in the Parliament. But also, as Colin was saying, if there's anything that we can do, Peksan's points about the Met's community engagement team, I think it was, anything we can do to assist there, happy to help out, and to liaise with groups like Chris's, and to make sure that it's on their radar as well. This is clearly a growing problem, and we've got to do everything we can to stop it. It's just, as I say, I just find racism absolutely abhorrent, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to help everyone in the community to do something about it.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. So that is us for tonight. I'm just going to pass to my colleague Christian for a few final words, but from me, thank you so much for your patience, for attending. we hope to maybe make another event similar to this one. So keep an eye out on our website and our social links. We've got LinkedIn, Instagram, and always be in touch if you have any questions. We've got our email. Please don't hesitate to be in touch. And I'll just pass to Christian now.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So how did it go? BBYTA hopes that this has been an informative session with more events to come in the future. I'd like to thank our kind guests for their attendance, along with the friends, family and allies of BBYTA for their support. As mentioned earlier, the issue of anti-Asian hate will not go away anytime soon. It's all our duty to call it out and combat it wherever we encounter it, both online and in the real life. We hope from collaborating with community members and grassroots organisations, we can create a united front to influence and create a positive change towards these issues. The protection of the community isn't just vital for ourselves, but other minority groups too. Together, we can challenge the negative rhetoric of racism via education, action, and public discourse.
When you're on mute.
Again. Finally, thank you to our speakers, Maisie Chan, Dr. Peng Wang, Stop Asian Hate, Amy and AD, and Chris Priestley from Show Racism the Red Card. And of course, our honorary guests, Deidre Brock MP and Colin Beattie MSP, along with our team at BBYTA, our volunteers and our friends. Thank you all for coming. Have a pleasant and safe night. If you can, please do fill out the post-event survey. We will proceed to send out an email. It will vastly help BBYTA plan in the future. And just to reiterate, I know there probably would have lots of questions, and Peng, I will get in touch with you and we can forward your questions on to Deirdre and Colin. And with Colin and Deirdre, thank you again for coming. And we here at BBYTA, we are looking forward to working with you on preparing a motion to the government. This issue definitely needs highlighting. But thank you very much for all of you attending. And we hope you enjoyed today and at least feel a little bit more aware about the situation. Again, if you need any support, please do get in touch with us on our website at www.bbyta align dash I lost it. I'm sorry.
.com.
Yes, or our Instagram bbyta.uk or our LinkedIn British Born Young Talent Association. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
There'll also be a post survey as well. If you could fill that out as well, that'd be great.
Every little helps. I know it's many surveys, but they all help give us feedback. So thank you so much.
And you're welcome. You're free to leave now.
Yeah, everyone. Have a nice night.
Have a good night. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.